The Pacifica trial is a randomized phase 3 study. It's a global study. It's ongoing. It has completed accrual in the U.S., but it is not published or presented any of the data thus far. And it is a study that is evaluating pacritinib at 200 milligrams twice daily versus best available therapy in patients who have myelofibrosis and a platelet count less than 50,000. And this is a study that was agreed upon with the FDA after the completion of the submission for approval in the U.S. for pacritinib, which is now approved since February 28, 2022, at 200 milligrams twice daily with a label that is agnostic to line of therapy, but includes patients with platelet counts less than 50,000. This was an unmet need because the two approved drugs, ruxolitinib and fedratinib, have labels for greater than 50,000. So platelets greater than 50,000. So this is a study to confirm the data that was already seen and reviewed from the PERSIST-1 and PERSIST-2 study, particularly the PERSIST-2 study, which took patients specifically with platelet counts less than 100,000. In this study, it is a co-primary endpoint at 24 weeks of spleen volume reduction and symptom improvement. Yeah, so this group of patients that have this thrombocytopenia, which is the hallmark of the cytopenic myelofibrosis patient population, is an unmet need. These patients do quite poorly, and multiple studies have shown that their survival is low, that they have a higher risk for transformation to acute leukemia, and that they are also very burdened by symptomatology and anemia. And up until February in the US, there really wasn't any adequate JAK inhibitor therapy for these patients. So pacritinib offers the opportunity to give a full dose of a JAK2, IRAK1, ACBR1 inhibitor to these patients that really didn't have adequate options previously to afford them spleen, symptom, and even in 25% of patients, anemia benefit. So pacritinib is an oral JAK2 selective inhibitor. It spares JAK1. It's also a FLT3 inhibitor, but probably most importantly and most relevant to the biology of myelofibrosis, it's an IRAK1 and an ACBR1 inhibitor. And IRAK1 turns out to be an important signaling molecule that contributes to a pathway that is also upregulated in patients with myelofibrosis that signals through the IL-1 toll-like receptor complex through the mitosome that recruits IRAKs that ultimately result in upregulation of NF-kappa B, which has been shown by Steve-O in multiple groups to be elevated and an important therapeutic target. And the current JAK2 inhibitors that were approved, ruxolitinib and fedratinib, don't sufficiently extinguish this pathway. So what made pacritinib unusual and worth further clinical development was because it is an IRAK1 inhibitor and downregulates inflammatory cytokine expression through alternative inflammatory pathways, it appears to be less myelosuppressive in the early phase studies, and this bore out in the phase 3 studies and the phase 2 dose-finding study. So one could provide this and maximize inflammatory signaling depression while not inducing significant myelosuppression. And that was the liability of ruxolitinib and fedratinib in this very low platelet population. Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential for this drug because it's less myelosuppressive. More recently, it was also found to be an ACBR1 inhibitor as well. I think the potential to deliver this drug in patients who have significant anemia with myelofibrosis, in which there was a 25% clinical improvement rate in anemia in PERSIST-2, or use this drug in combination with other rational mechanism-based therapies in myelofibrosis or even related myeloid diseases like myelodysplastic syndromes and AML. So I think there's a potential to combine this drug with other therapies that are already in clinical investigation as combinatory partners with ruxolitinib. This drug may be well suited as it's less myelosuppressive and may allow for better dosing and longer duration of therapy with these other drugs, which also tend to be myelosuppressive.